buckets, but shooting threes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you mentioned that a little bit earlier too. All right, so I have to say, producer Kyle is not with us today, and I'm trying to run the boards and run all of the broadcasting and stuff. And there's a good chance, Paul, that this got cut up and chopped up, and a portion of it didn't make it onto the YouTube stream. I know that we're recording right now, so we should be totally fine. But I just wanted to throw that out there. If it looks choppy, or if all of a sudden we were gone and then we came back, that's my fault. And I'm sure Jake is somewhere probably pounding shots right now because I'm running the boards and doing such a poor job of it. But yeah, I mean, it's the Packers just make your, well, and that's one of the frustrating things, make your layups. And that's what's frustrating too, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He makes these phenomenal catches and, nice grab in the back of the end zone. I'm glad he was, and Aaron Rodgers for sticking with him and getting the ball to him. But I think we're just going to have to kind of suffer through what it's going to be. There's going to be frustrating moments. There's going to be good moments. Because of the fact that the wide receiver position is what it is. Even when Allen Lazard comes back, MVS still has to be that number 3 guy. When ideally, I think we agreed earlier today when we were talking that he's more of a 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the tough part there. That's the tough part about that whole situation. But there were a lot of other positives that came out of this game, and one of them was Aaron Rodgers was only sacked 1 time. Right, the offensive line had to shuffle around a little bit. Rick Wagner. He had an injury. You had Billy Turner playing left tackle of late. David Bakhtiari has been out. We know Lane Taylor they lost earlier this season, so they've had to move guys all over the place. Billy Turner has played pretty well at left tackle. I mean, say for whatever you will about the level of competition, but he's played well, and whatever shuffling or combination they've gone with at offensive line, it's gone well, right? We can't really complain.
Not at all. I tweeted this out earlier today by ESPN's pass block and run block win rate metric. The Packers are first in both. Their offensive line is. And if you think about all the movement that has had to have taken place this year, Billy Turner, left tackle, right tackle, Rick Wagner in and out, Lane Taylor getting injured, Elton Jenkins basically playing everywhere, John Runyon, 6th-round draft pick coming in, Lucas Patrick bouncing around right guard, center, left guard. It's incredible. The movement that's taken place with the level of play that they've been at, like, folks, this is not common or should be expected. The offensive line is doing a fantastic job. And just with all, I've said it's musical chair, but that's a credit to the players, but also, Goody as well for building a team that's as versatile as they are, where guys can just move from position to position and relatively seamlessly continue to play at a high level.
Rick Wagner has not let us down. He's been solid when he's been in there. John Runyon Jr. has come in some spot duty and done pretty well. So those things all taken into consideration, the Packers are in pretty good shape. Runyon seems like he's a good depth player, could end up coming up and becoming a regular starter. You've got Lucas Patrick.
I think that's the plan.
And he hasn't played poorly so far. He's young. There's still a chance that we're going to see some bumps in the road there, and hopefully it doesn't come at a crucial time. But we're going to talk later on about the depth of this Packers team, and that's a big part of it, is the depth. When you can rely on your young players to step in and play and do well, we saw a ton of them. More Henry Black. We saw Stanford Samuel step in there. We had Kadar Holman in there, cornerback, and they were playing pretty well. Holman makes a big tackle on a swing pass that has typically been troublesome for the Packers. And just, Ty Summers, Kamal Martin, Chris Barnes stepping in there, an inside linebacker. Just the depth, the guys that have stepped in and filled roles that were previously filled by veterans before. That's how you do special things in a season. I think that's one of the things, Paul, that's going to catapult this team to doing some great stuff. But from the offensive line standpoint, obviously the biggest thing is keep Aaron Rodgers on his feet, because he can do more damage on his feet than not, right?
That's the name of the game. And you hit the nail on the head there. There's a lot of talented players on this team, and it's easy, and I do it too. It's easy to get wrapped up in what this team's missing. The defensive line, the run defense can be porous at times, but overall, this is a very talented team, especially when Allen Lazard comes back. Aaron Rodgers has one of, if not the best offensive line in the game. He's got Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams behind him. He's got Devontae Adams. Allen Lazard is receiver 1-2. He's got Bob Tonyan and Jay Sternberger at tight end. Then the defensive side of the ball. they haven't played up to expectations or what they should have. I 100% agree with that. Is there. This is a very talented team. And it's like I said, it's easy to focus on what's missing, but every team out there has positions or weaknesses. That's just football. You're not going to build 100% perfect team. And so they're 6-2 at the halfway point in the year, and we should be excited about where this team is going. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. There's certainly things to fix up and get better at, admittedly, but this is a very good team.
Think about this too, Paul. I mean, to that effect, coming back sooner than later is going to be Alan Lazard. Christian Kirksey is going to be ready to play. Kamal Martin will be back. Chris Barnes was put on the COVID list, but he hopefully, with the extra few days off, will be good to go by the time the Packers are ready to host the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kevin King at cornerback. You're going to be adding those pieces to what they're already doing right now. And again, they played a beat-up 49ers team. Would they have beaten a full-strength 49ers team on the road on a short week? I don't know. I would have to think it's a much different story.
Right.
But they're only going to be adding more talent to what's happening on this team. But you've had a chance now to look at Josh Jackson in extended action. You've gotten Kadar Holman out there. You've seen Stanford Samuels. You've seen some of these guys now play in game action. There was no preseason, so they didn't get a chance to look at some of these young guys. This helps them plan for the future, because the reality is, and not to throw a wet blanket on our victory parade here, but Kevin King's a free agent. We don't know whether or not the Packers are going to return him. And the fact that he's missed some of this time again might be one of those things where they say, had he played a full healthy season in 2020 after what he did in 2019, he probably moves up the totem pole. But right now, I have to think the Packers are probably kind of having some discussions about, well, what do we do here? Because you've got Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari. You just paid Kenny Clark. The Packers don't ever seem to be in cap hell. I think they'd figure out a way to make it happen. But I'm glad they've had a chance to see some of these young guys, right? On the defensive side of the ball, a very active night on a short week. Za'Darius Smith, Preston Smith were all over the place. It was shades of 2019. It was nice to see them flying around. What was crazy about it was, and when you look at the stat sheet, it seemed like Za'Darius Smith and Preston Smith had like 4 or 5 sacks on the night. It was 1 sack all night. And Z also caused a fumble and covered that same fumble as well. He was active and all over the place. Good to see the pressure on the passer. It begs the question of, are these guys turning it on and off when they want to and when they need to? And does it seem like they're saving themselves for later this season? Because the pass rush, as you've noted in past shows, Paul, has been cut in half so far this season.
Yeah, and I can't answer whether they're turning it on and off from game to game, but looking at the numbers and just the production overall, this pass rush unit is not anywhere near as consistent as it was last season. The Packers pass rush was top 5 last year in quarterback pressures. They are last right now. That is right, last. And this Thursday night was a prime example of why outside linebackers coach Mike Smith is so emphatic about pressures over sacks. Packers had 1 sack, but they were constantly in Nick Mullins' face. And they came up with 15 pressures. 2 of those led to turnovers, which is another area that this team has struggled with this year because of the lack of pressure. And looking ahead, you hope that this is kind of the turning point for them, but they need to show it more. We haven't seen that up to this point whatsoever at all, and the rest of the defense is struggling. Turnovers are down. In the red zone, they're giving up more touchdowns than they did last year compared to field goals. There's this trickle-down effect, and it hurts the rest of the defense when you're getting after the quarterback, and I know that's not breaking news by any means, but this is something that if the Packers are going to push for a Super Bowl and be one of the top teams in the NFL, they need their defensive front to get after the quarterback. And even Za'Darius Smith, he has 7 sacks, which is one of the tops in the league, but it goes back to Mike Smith thing about pressures over sacks. There's just not that consistency right now. And we saw that Thursday night. We saw how it affected the Niners. And yes, I know it's a depleted Niners team, but still, pressures affect the quarterback. It affects the offense, and that's what they need to do moving forward. Be better about doing that consistently. And if Mike Pettine's been better about blitzing, but as a unit, they need to win those one-on-one matchups.
They do. And another thing that's been missing this season, too, in addition to those quarterback sacks and the pressure rate, is the turnovers and the interceptions. Mm-hmm. And we saw why that pressure is important on Thursday night. Zadarius Smith gets pressure on the passer. Maybe it was Preston. Nick Mullins makes a terrible pass, throws it up for grabs, and Raven Green's right there, snags the interception, and off you go. So those are one of those times where, no, they didn't get the sack, but the pressure caused a really positive outcome on defense for the Packers, and they were able to do something positive with it. One of two takeaways on the night, and it helped that the Packers didn't turn the ball over either on offense. So those are the two things: pressure the passer, get those turnovers. One thing to keep an eye on: Jair Alexander left the game with was being evaluated for a concussion. So this little mini bye that the Packers have here, I think, is going to be beneficial for them, because it'll give some guys that are dinged up and banged up some extra time to potentially get back on the field again when they host the Jaguars. After what happened against the Vikings, I don't want to take any games for granted. So the Packers absolutely can't assume that they're just going to mow down and take care of Jacksonville like they should. I think Jacksonville is on a better level. A similar situation to this 49ers team, where the Packers really have no business allowing Jacksonville to creep in there. I think they should keep a pretty healthy lead and ultimately win that game. But they've got to go into it with the idea that they're going to play out and build up that lead and then hopefully coast a little bit towards the end. I think it would be ideal. But extra rest for some guys. We mentioned Chris Barnes on the COVID list. Jordan Love was put on the COVID list as well. He was a contact add to that list. So it's always interesting to me, because it's medical stuff and we're not supposed to know these things, but they leak out and we end up finding out who was a contact, add to that list and who actually tested positive. And there's all those other types of things there too. But when we go back to the depth, I guess when you look at the depth on this, well, I shouldn't lead you. I should just ask you straight up, Paul, because fortunately we have some different areas of this team to consider for the answer to the question, which is, which area of the team are you most excited about the young depth? You've got inside linebacker. You could look at wide receiver, although I don't think wide receiver is going to win out in that particular situation. But you've seen some of the secondary, the cornerbacks that have jumped in and played really well. Maybe it's the offensive line. We talked about John Runyon Jr. So where are you the most encouraged about the future of this team in terms of the young guys?
I got to go the offensive line. I came into this season very skeptical about this unit, particularly the right side of it, and wondering how they're going to not only finish this season, but proceed into the future. And with Billy Turner's play as a tackle, Rick Wagner's been very good as well.
Yep.
Elton Jenkins, we've seen, and I think it was known that, he can bounce around. I don't think that that's a new thing, but actually seeing him do that. And then I hope, regardless of that, I hope David Bakhtiari's back. But just seeing that ability, and then Lucas Patrick as well. He's at you're never going to see an offensive lineman who's, out there peacocking and getting all the attention, but he's been very, very good at the right guard position, and he can play center, left guard. So just that versatility. John Runyon as well. Limited action, but just being able to step in and hold down either of the guard positions. He's played both this season. I'm very encouraged about this offensive line unit, and that gives Goody and this Packers team flexibility moving forward in their decision-making, which is a good thing, because the cap is likely going to be shrinking. The Packers were already tight up against it, even without that. So the offensive line, and I know I touched on that earlier, and maybe this is a cop-out, but that's where I'm going. I'm impressed and excited for the future.
Yeah, and that's a place where you want to be solid. The offensive line is, there are rarely really good teams that do special things that don't have a solid offensive line. And the Packers have had a good offensive line. I mean, the last time that they didn't, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to remind me, I guess maybe 05, 06 maybe. I mean, they've had really good guys, because right around that 07, 08 was when they brought in Sitton, Lang, Darren College is in there for and some of those guys weren't necessarily great, but if you take the whole of the offensive line, then you're great. We talk all the time about the Packers being fortunate to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. They also went from Chad Clifton to David Bakhtiari, which is incredible. I know Marshall Newhouse was in there for one of those seasons, and it was a little bit tougher. But essentially, they went from franchise left tackle to franchise left tackle, and there's just say what you will about the draft and some of the things that Ted Thompson and Brian Gutekunst haven't done over the past 5 years or so, but they hit on some of those key positions. And I would say quarterback and left tackle probably qualify there.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go in the secondary for my answer. I just, and I was hard on Josh Jackson a couple of weeks ago in the game against, I guess, the Texans. He was like one play where he didn't make a tackle at the point. And it's easy to pile on somebody when the narrative is, well, this guy isn't playing very well. Josh Jackson's, he's okay. I mean, they opined, Gary Ellerson opined on the Green and Gold post-game show after this game that he thinks that the Packers are going to let Kevin King walk because Josh Jackson's going to be the starting quarterback next year. I don't know about that. I mean, that's kind of scary to me, but I like the way Kadar Holman played. I've talked about him being a smart player, and that's the thing about him that appeals to me the most because I haven't seen what he's able to do physically. But you get in there and you make a tackle like that, those are the kind of things that are going to get you more playing time because the coaches see, okay, we can trust this guy to get the guy on the ground, because that's been a bugaboo for this team when they've played badly is they're not tackling well. And so hopefully they've gotten that a little bit under control. You talked about chiseling, getting a win against the Niners and wanting to sharpen the saw, right? We're at the halfway point of this season. I'll take a victory against a really tough team anytime. But there's also something to be said, Paul, about not peaking too soon. And if your theory holds true, for the last 8 games of this season, the Packers aren't necessarily going to face a stretch like they did over these past 4 games. There's a good chance that this team could ramp up and peak at the right time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 8 games left. 5 of them are at Lambeau Field. Beautiful. It's getting cold here. I know it's 70 degrees now, like I talked about, but it's getting cold and nasty here. And a lot of the teams that they're playing, I mean, they should absolutely win. So the Packers have the opportunity. And the big thing this season, and it's harder now because the new playoff format, but get the 1 seed. Packers have been to a lot of NFC championship games. They haven't been to Lambeau Field for Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't played one here yet.
Yep.
And let's get him one, because even with an inferior team, and I'm not saying the Packers are going to be, we don't know the matchup, but even with an inferior team, you have Aaron Rodgers under center at Lambeau Field in January. I love the odds. So I think the Packers need to pedal to the metal, rack up as many wins as they can. We typically see those unfortunate losses, and I'm hoping that the Minnesota game this past week was that one. Each year there's always that one where you kind of scratch your head and go, seriously, they've lost that. So I'm hoping Minnesota was that one, and moving forward, like I said, 5 of 8 at home. There's going to be a number of inferior opponents. Rack up those wins, get that 1 seed. Let's get Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship game here at Lambeau Field.
So Big Al Niang in the chat asks, if the Packers are on playoff lock by week 17, should the Packers start Jordan Love? If they've locked up the 1 seed
then sure.
by week 17, I would be really surprised. I mean, it's Seattle is not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of competition in the NFC, but yeah, sure. Why not? We have yet to see Jordan Love step onto the field, because anytime that it's been Aaron Rodgers in a ball cap, it's been Big Tim Boyle, who did not get to throw a pass against the 49ers once again. Boyle time didn't get a chance to throw, which is kind of a bummer for Boyle. So I don't know. I guess just deal with that. It's fine, But when I look back though, Paul, to your point, a lot of success, a lot of NFC Championship games, a lot of playoff games over the years, but there have only been, in the last 25 years, there have only been 2 NFC Championship games that took place at Lambeau Field. One was in 1996. The Packers won. They went to the Super Bowl. They won Super Bowl 31 with Brett Favre, and then not again until 2007. When they faced the New York Giants, and that was also with Brett Favre, because then in 1997 season, they went to the NFC Championship game, but they had to play at San Francisco, and they beat the 49ers to go to Super Bowl 32. So Favre got 2 NFC Championship games at home. Rodgers hasn't gotten 2 yet. He's a competitive guy. He's going to want to do better. So that means he's got to stick around for more years, which is, Aaron Rodgers will be around in Green Bay for a while, and the Packers have to, try to hand him three straight NFC Championship games at Lambeau Field. No problem, right? Easy enough.
Right. Absolutely. Fingers crossed. But I think it's just something we haven't seen yet. And even regardless of how this season turns out with fans in the stands, Lambeau Field in January, where it's 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 15 degrees, but wind chill, negative. I mean, that's an advantage for the Packers, especially for Aaron Rodgers. Played his whole career here. He's used to that, and I think he thrives in that environment. I would just love to see him have that opportunity to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the Packers are going to get some extra rest. They're going to turn around, come back. They'll host the Jacksonville Jaguars 1 week from tomorrow. So it's going to be a while before we have some Packers football to talk about. Hopefully this team gets a little bit of much needed recovery time from some of the ailments that they have. But like I said, they're getting a big boost from some of these guys who are ready to come back. Coach LaFleur said that Alan Lazard is close. David Bakhtiari continues to make progress. You want all of your horses healthy and available. Christian Kirksey comes back, and if he doesn't have to play as much with the injury history that he's had, I think that gives him a good depth boost to the inside linebacker position. It just gives Mike Pettin more options for what he can do when your inside linebackers can handle what it is that they're doing. You know, one point that you made earlier today, Paul, was if you can get pressure with your front four and not have to blitz, you've got more options in coverage. If your inside linebackers can cover, you don't have to keep bringing that nickel and dime package in and going smaller against some teams that have these bigger tight ends. You think about a George Kittle. Now, the Packers, fortunately, are not going to see the 49ers again. So George Kittle is not going to reappear into their world. But some of these bigger tight ends, Kyle Rudolph with the Vikings, some of those type of guys can be problematic. They'll see Jimmy Graham twice. You got the Chicago Bears coming up, so we'll get a chance to see Jimmy Graham in a Bears uniform.
Isn't it weird that they played the Vikings twice already, but we haven't played the Bears yet?
It is, yeah. Bears week typically doesn't take this long. So we're going to get a heavy and concentrated dose of the Chicago Bears and their fan base over the course of the back half of the season. But the conventional wisdom says, well, that the Packers will take care of business and they'll make it not a thing. Should. So, yeah, so short and sweet this week, Paul. We've pretty much covered most of the big points. Was there anything else I missed from the game we want to talk about or we didn't cover?
No, I think we hit it all. Packers went through their toughest stretch of the season right now at 2-2, which can't complain about that. We saw them increasing pressure, which is always going to be a good thing for the defense. Hope that they can continue doing that moving forward. And the Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams connection it's special. It's beautiful. I was speechless earlier.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And for me, it was the concern was when they let Jordy go was, okay, are they going to be able to find that kind of connection? Are they going to be able to get that mojo going on between the two of them? And is he ever going to find that? Because that was also a really special one. I mean, those two guys were just on another planet with what they're doing. But Davante Adams, from a talent standpoint, Davante Adams, I think is more talented overall than what Jordy was. Jordy was just very smart, used his body well, and had decent speed too, and the strength. There's just different skill sets there. But like I said, if Davante Adams is on the field, I don't care if he's running into the huddle, off the huddle, or whatever it is that he's doing, he's open.
Adams absolutely. Is open. I think he just caught a 30-yard pass during this podcast too. So
he probably did. Just put up another touchdown, right? So he's racking up yards. He will not be denied that 1,000-yard mark.
No, not anymore.
He's fallen a couple of yards short a few seasons here too. So. All right. Well, like I said, everybody follow us on Twitter, check out our Facebook page, join our Facebook group, follow us on Instagram, anywhere that you go on social media. Most of our live shows will stream. We're on YouTube right now. We'll be there every single week. And then back at our normal schedule this coming week with all of our great slate of shows. So get in there and check all of those out. In the meantime, everybody enjoy a nice stress-free Sunday. The Packers have already racked up their victory. Enjoy watching all of your the other teams and hopefully the ones that you want to see win and the other ones that you want to see lose. Seattle's on a bye this week.
Bears and Vikings.
Yeah, are the Seahawks on a bye this week?
No, they're playing the Bills, I think.
Yeah, go. Absolutely. If we could get the trifecta there and get all three of those three teams to lose, that would only top off a perfect week of football. So everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and as always, go Pack Go.